Hello and welcome to Brilliance Today, where individuals let their brilliance shine through their stories, expertise and philosophy, because they're on a mission to make a difference and leave a legacy. Introducing Brenda Dempsey, publisher, speaker and TV presenter. Get ready to be inspired.
Hello and welcome to Brilliance Today, where we are surrounded by brilliance. My name is Brenda Dempsey and I'm the founder and CEO of Book Brilliance Publishing, and this is the place where you are going to hear, see and feel the brilliance of my brilliant guests. And today's guest is Renee McDonald, all the way from, let me get this right, Wollongong in Australia, and I'm sure Renee will tell us more about where Wollongong is. Over to you, Renee, and welcome to Brilliance Today.
Thanks for having me on, Brenda. So Wollongong is on the south coast of New South Wales, about 80 kilometres from Sydney.
So, Renee, please tell everybody a little bit about yourself, what you do, and what fires you up.
So what I do, first up, a little bit about myself. Some people, when they meet me in person, I'm 4'8.5". So that gives you a little bit of a clue. I'm a very petite lady. But a lot of people talk about me in terms of I pack a good punch. In the online space, I'm just the same as everyone else, so you wouldn't pick it until you meet me in person. That's one thing that people usually kind of spot about me. I've been a therapist for about 20 years now. I'm a mum of 3 kids. I have a dog. Basically, I live a very full life, and I also run my own company. I train clinicians, do lots of different things. Yeah.
Ah, wow. So we're in the world of psychotherapy, is that correct?
Correct, yes.
So my first question to you is then, what is it about working in the mental health sector that fires you up?
A lot of things fire me up. Number one, people talking about therapists or therapy when they don't know what they're talking about. That's number one. Number two, people even in the industry not even knowing what they're talking about. Number three, people using brainwashing and mind warping techniques who shouldn't be, or those who are in the field using such techniques that shouldn't be as well. And probably number 4 is where human meets AI and what is coming. And actually, I have a lot to say, and I think the therapists of the world have a lot to say about AI, but they're just not ready to say it yet.
Well, look, we're trailblazers here on Brilliance Today. Would you like to give us a little glimpse into what you think about, because AI, GPT is everywhere at the moment. You know, I've had a look at it myself. I'm a publisher, but you cannot take out the human aspect of what we do. It's only as good as the questions you ask, etc. So for me, I could probably talk about it from that point of view too. But as a therapist, what is it about therapy and AI that fires?
Okay. Probably something even further that isn't being discussed in AI and isn't being discussed in tech and isn't being discussed in therapy is what makes humans brilliant is our capacities to spiritually connect to each other, is our capacity to even beyond this time and space. I can meet with you right now beyond time zone. So you're in a different time zone to me. I'm in a different time zone to you. We are actually having a human-to-human conversation. A lot of people aren't aware that when we kind of flicker our eyes, that might be the clue to whether or not something's AI or not. Basically, what therapists have learned, particularly those like myself who were trained some 20, 30 years ago, We learnt to read body language.
Yes.
We learnt to read people. We learnt this. The problem is when we do everything on our phones or devices now, a lot of the young people aren't learning to read body language because we've all been masked up, phones in our hand, all that. We've lost a lot of the capacity to connect. So AI seems the same. It's not.
Absolutely. And that's the thing. It's about, so I used to have a program called Soul Talk, because when I connect with people, yes, it could be on a cognitive level, it could be on a mind level, but what's important is that we connect on a soul level, you know, and
Yes.
you can read that. And soul
Yes.
is all about energy, and that's why
Yes.
brilliance is all about energy and vibrating at a particular level of energy. And when you link that with work by people like Dr. David Hawkins, who I
Yes.
love, and how
Yes.
you can make choices, it creates
Exactly.
a whole new power within us that we have control over, that no one else can have.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
So I'm with you the whole way. AI is fine to
Excellent.
a point, but then it's that human connection.
Yes.
You know, so we probably could actually have a whole talk about that, but let's move on.
Absolutely.
We'll have another. I think I'll bring you back, Renee,
Thank you.
about that, because certainly it really fires me up. You know, one of the things I read about you, you like to work with people around their potential and the excellence of work. Well, I told you earlier, Renee, that you know we are kindred spirits for sure. So what is it about potential, and what is it about bringing out, so me, I bring out brilliance, and you're talking about that excellence of work, so it's very much aligned. Why is that important for you?
Because this will be the cutting edge of the future against AI too, actually. So that's another level. However, there's another level to it as well, is that we as humans have allowed ourselves to be dumbed down by technology.
Yes.
And we actually need to bring out our brilliance and bring out our excellence in order to reconnect again.
Do you think, you know, because you're taking the conversation down this, and I'm happy to go down rabbit holes and all sorts of things, but do you think that all this, like the social media, the phones, I mean, I've just come back from Dubai, and all you do, you sit there and you see folk, this is it the whole time. Do you think it creates a disconnect within ourselves?
Yep, definitely.
And how does that manifest? So as you work in the field of mental health, how does that manifest in clients and in people that you've seen that you work with in a mental health way, with this, like have your phone in your hand? I mean, I'm a bit guilty myself, I've got to say. You know?
I'm not saying I'm perfect in this regard either. I'm a mum of 3 kids, and I have a teenager who, you know, is a bit of a gaming addict, and, you know, whatever. So, you know, like, this is the kind of stuff that happens. But when parents have been forced to put their kids into homeschooling throughout lockdown and all that, this is the kind of stuff that happens as well. So there's so many different layers, and to what you've just asked there, that's also another rabbit hole. I guess here's the thing: if we are removed from connection like this, even just like this, it's so different when we've just got our phone and we're just scrolling through other people's feeds and other people's lives. It creates, so if you want to go to the basic stuff, Freud, it creates envy, jealousy. I mean, there's new words like fear of missing out, but it's the same kind of concept. We're looking at the 7 deadly sins are actually out to play on social media. And then we get hooked.
And of course, you know, I worked in education for 20 years. And certainly as I went through different stages with the young people that I worked with, adolescence is a very crucial time. And one of the things that I learned, I love all things mindset as well, is that people don't actually understand that the human brain from the age of 12, it takes from the age of 12 to 20 and sometimes 25 for it to mature into an adult. And yet we
Yes.
put so many expectations on these young people to be like an adult when they're 14, 15, 16. They're not ready to be an adult. Hence, you know, we've got laws and people don't see it like that. But
Yes.
have you seen a growth in anxiety levels,
Oh, yes.
self-harm,
Definitely.
depression?
Definitely.
Because that's what I saw.
Definitely. But I think we also need to talk about existential depression as well and what that is.
Oh, explain that. That's good.
Okay, so existential depression is something that was coined by the existentialists and existential philosophers and existential psychotherapists. And it's usually when something like a world war happens, a pandemic happens, and those kinds of things. And where do people go to under those circumstances? Homicide, suicide, terror, under fear and power and control. So I guess there's more to this than meets the eye in terms of how humans can both harm each other as well as help each other. I like to see things as the glass is half full rather than the glass is half empty.
Yeah.
Because I see these things as opportunities for us to reconnect. So it's actually about whether or not we see ourselves as broken or the capacity to heal from this.
Absolutely. Oh, thanks for that, Renee. I mean, that is something, it's something that I kind of knew, but I didn't have a label for it. So thanks helping me, and I'm sure the listeners with it. You know what we like labels. Sometimes they're helpful and sometimes they're harmful, as you were saying. But there's something that I wanted to ask you about that's important. You have had you've been inspired by many people. Do you believe we should all have some form of a mentor as we journey through new aspects of our life?
Definitely. And I'll tell you why. So a lot of people think that they don't need someone, but there's usually someone who's gone somewhere that you want to go, or somewhere before you've done it. So I've found it's really important to seek out people who've been where you want to go.
Yes.
Even if it's just in the form of watching YouTubes by Brene Brown, in my case. Yeah. It doesn't necessarily mean that you have to pay lots of money for the best and the rest, you know, but it's about doing your best to seek the best support that you possibly can with whatever you've got.
Absolutely. You know, and it's like you buy books, you know, so I don't know if you know Darren Hardy, The Compound Effect. He's an American, great entrepreneur. And his mentors were people like Stephen Covey, oh goodness, other guy's name's got Jim Rohn, and you know, and a few others, you know, Napoleon Hill. And I don't know about you, but I've read these books, but The Compound Effect really changed my life, and I've always been into mindset and things, but really after reading that book, wow, I was then like giving up education, and I'm on the path that I'm on today, you know. And you're right. And another woman that I like is Marianne Williamson. You know,
I love her.
Powerful quote about the mountain and the greatest fear. You know, it's not failing. Our greatest fear is not failing. Our greatest fear is being successful. You know, we all seek it, but yet therein lies the reason why we all procrastinate and get overwhelmed, because we fear it. But actually, success is not anything to fear, because we can do better and we can serve more people with it, you know.
Absolutely. I agree wholeheartedly with you on that. And I think there's something that Brene Brown says about success that's imperative for the listeners to hear. And I think this is something that really buoys me up, is it's never the critic who counts. So it doesn't matter how many people who troll you or say negative things about you. what they tell you doesn't necessarily matter, because they are not you. They can never be you, and they don't know what you personally go through to help serve them.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's right. And that's where at this point in my life, that's where I've got to, so I feel fearless, unstoppable, because I know the path that's taken to get this confident, self-belief woman that I am today.
Yep.
Wasn't always like that. I had to go through a lot of darkness, and we all do, for sure. And it's important that we find mentors. Some we'll pay for, some we'll get for free. Some we just use the genius that's all around us. And it could be, you can learn a lot from a 2-year-old child, a 22-year-old, a 42-year-old. It's nothing to do with age. It's to do with that inner wisdom that's allowed to come out, which is part of the brilliance, Another, I love this as well, that I know about you, is you talk about like success is all about hard work and timing. And again, you mentioned Oprah when you were speaking about that. So can you enlighten us a bit more about why hard work's necessary, and what is it all about, this timing?
I think I need to go to something else entirely to answer that question.
All right.
So I guess I could compare. In my younger years, I learnt piano, dancing, singing, ice skating, all sorts of things. I was really lucky to be able to follow a number of different pursuits. But if I look back on that in time now, the things that I ended up getting best at were the things I put the most work into, even if I had talent. So I had talent in piano, but I didn't practice enough, so I didn't take it very far. But I had to work harder to play the flute, so I took it further, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
So some of my early years experiences inform me of where I'm at right now. The problem is all these kids now come through, and I see it in my own kids and I see it in their friends, is they come through wanting to be brilliant at things without doing the hard work.
Exactly.
You just watch someone on YouTube and do 6 months and then you're there. You haven't actually done what's called like that 10,000 hours, if you know that stuff. And you haven't actually achieved mastery. When you achieve mastery, you go through the 4 stages of competence. There's the conscious incompetence, and then then you go through all those different stages and you get to the point of almost mastery, but that's only because you've done the time. You haven't. If you haven't done the time, you can't actually say you're good at stuff. This is the problem with all these social media coaches. I look out there and they've been there like 6 months, sometimes even 6 minutes. And this is the problem. And I mean, someone like myself, I decided to do a degree in coaching because I didn't want to just hang up a shingle and do that, because people were coming to me for coaching, but I wanted to be sure I was actually providing the right service to them. That's the whole point of hard work, is you can then say, I know what I'm doing. You can't say that you know what you're doing if you've just tried something for a year.
I know. I mean, I'm an educationalist, so I'm right there. I don't always think that a piece of paper makes a difference. I get so many pieces of paper. Does anybody ask me, oh, I want to see your degree? Nobody ever asked me, because I believe in walking your talk. I believe in the proof is in not just what you say, because I've heard people, they sound good, but actually when you start quizzing them and you start having conversations, you realise they don't actually know very much, really. They're okay at giving you the answer, but they can't go deeper. And so I agree with you more. I mean, I've got a 21-year-old granddaughter, and she's won lots of dancing competitions, like the British champion at tap, etc., and things along her career. But the bottom line is she was young when she was winning them, but she'd been dancing. She's been dancing now for the best part of 15, 16 years.
Yeah. Yes.
And that's why she's so good.
Yes. Exactly.
Right.
Exactly.
You know, and this is what people don't see. It's back to going back to my favourite Dan Hardy. It's the microwave mentality. I want it now. I want it now. I want it now. I want to be brilliant now. Don't want to do the work.
Yes.
You know?
Yes.
And let me take it a little step deeper than what you've been saying yourself, Renee. And that is, I remember when I went into education as a mature student, and I spoke to this head teacher, and she was only 32 at the time. So she was a very young, she was a high achiever. And she was encouraging me. And she says, do you know what, Brenda? Here's one, this was her words of wisdom to me. You only get out of something what you're prepared to put in.
Exactly. Yeah.
And, you know, I'm thinking, right, so that's how I love life. So I put everything in, then I get everything out. Do you know what I mean? So therefore, that's how you get the results, you know? You either, there's a lot of, you see a lot of it in social media, you're either all in or all out. You can't be half in and half out. Do you know what I mean? It's, it's got to be all or nothing, you know, for sure. Oh, yeah. Tell me more about this hybrid therapeutic coach.
Yeah, so it's interesting, the questions that were put to me before coming on, which is why I answered them the way that I did. I love the questions that you asked. So what is a therapeutic coach? Well, I even have a course on that. There's always a course on that. But actually, talking about being from education, I've worked in education and institutions for a while, training therapists. And given I've done a degree in coaching, I've now done a bridging course. So I've put together a bridging course for therapists to become coaches, because I actually think that's the missing link at the moment across the world, is a lot of therapists can be really good coaches if they're well trained. But they just don't know the difference between therapy and coaching. And I guess I'm also here to bridge that gap too. And that's a lot of what I'm doing now.
Yeah, and absolutely. And I remember in my training as a coach, it was like you had to learn the difference between a coach and a therapist, because sometimes people who don't really understand what coaching is about try and answer and help people with their problems, but that's not what it's about, you know. So therapy tends to go back into the past, whereas coaching is very much forward thinking. And when you say it as simple as that, it's easy to understand. But of course, you will know, Renee, that humans have got this propensity to make things complicated, whereas everything's simple. I always think, can't be that easy. Oh, yes, it can. Oh, yes, it can.
Yes.
But to make it look easy, you need to be good.
Exactly. I love that.
Yeah, you need your 10 to 20, 10,000 hours, you know, your PhD and all of that.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Let's talk about my favourite thing that's about transformation, and that's about finding courage. Because without courage, we don't take action and we stay the same. We stay in that whole cycle of negativity. So how can you, or what words of advice can you give to people about finding courage?
Okay, so I feel like I've got a number of things to say about courage, because I've run my private practice, Butterfly Courage, for 16 years. So I've got a lot of things to say about it. So I was really hearing you deeply. I was listening to what you were saying before about walking your walk and talking your talk, like, you know, you were kind of referring to, you know, living what you profess. And that's very much what I've been doing over the last 16 years, especially when I've been working for myself. And before that, I worked in industry for some like 4 or 5 years there. I ended up coming up with the name Butterfly Courage through a mix match of what my name actually means. And it's all about, my name, Renee, actually means rebirth. rebirth and
Renew.
transformation. So it's almost like I've lived my name too throughout the course of my life. But I didn't want to be rebirth or born again, because that's the other version of my name meaning counseling, because that had too many Christian connotations, and I didn't want to have that necessarily, because I see people from all walks of life and all faiths. And so I came up with the concept of butterfly courage. I've had a lot over the years to do with the 12-step tradition, and they talk about having the courage to change. So I also put that together too. But in addition to that, people have called me courageous in my life. So I also knew I could, I guess, honor and own that too. So even as a young kid, people have called me courageous, and as as I grow up into being a fully mature woman now, I guess a lot of people have said, "How have you done what have you done, Renee? You're ballsy." I get it a lot that I'm very ballsy, and I guess I guess it's all about, if you want to do the very thing that you say you want to, how can you help make that happen, or get the help to either back yourself to make it happen? And so I've believed in that as a possibility my whole life. That a lot of people often say, "Well, how did you get that?" It's like, thankfully, in terms of just timing and the time I grew up, and the parents that I had, and other things that really pushed me to excel. And so I think that's a big part of some of the drive that I have. And I've been through a lot of setbacks over the years, but I've always managed to come back. And I think that's to do with just the nature of who I am, but also that I've worked on myself as much as I have. So it's not just that I've worked on other people, I've worked on myself too. You need to be able to also own that. If you're a therapist, you can't just say, "Oh, come to me for therapy," if you don't know what you're offering. You have to have experienced it too. So that's another part to that. So I guess in a nutshell, courage is all about the rage of the heart. So Brene Brown talks to this. The core is the heart. So it's really about heart passion. So courage is about heart passion. And so it's actually literally in your own heart. If you want something to happen, like deeply in your heart, it's about making that happen, almost bringing the passion to life. That's what courage is all about.
I love that. And I talk about courage. One of my first book was Voices of Courage, and courage is the first step to transformation, based on Dr. David Hamilton's work. Yes. And actually, just as you said courage, and I went, because I said courage just slightly ahead of what you were saying. And courage is heart in French. You're right, and it is. The courage is when you've got something, you find a why bigger than you, and you find a reason, and you find something that comes from that heart-centered place, and then you just take the action and you do it. But nothing will happen without the action, for sure. For sure.
Exactly.
So, Renee, what last parting words of wisdom can you share that will bring out that brilliance in others?
The most important thing is to seek support if you need it. And even if you're successful, if you want to take it to another level, there's always someone out there who's probably done it. Seek them out, do what you can to join things. The only path to success that I keep seeing around me is hard work, tenacity, and don't give up.
Exactly. Well, Renee, it has been an absolute pleasure speaking with you today, and I'm so glad we touched on AI, and I'm sure we could have another conversation about that at some point. It's so topical at the moment. I wish you luck. I wish you well, and I know now that we've connected, that's it. We'll always be connected, even when you're at one end of the hemisphere and I'm at the other, because I do believe in collapsing time and space. We can have a scientific talk one day about quantum leaping and things like that. I love that too. Okay, Renee. So everyone, I hope you've enjoyed listening to the words of wisdom from Renee. I hope you felt Renee. Sorry, I hope you felt her brilliance today. And until the next time, remember to surround yourself with brilliance. This is Brenda saying, be brilliant. Much love.
Thanks, everyone. Bye.
That's it for this episode of Brilliance Today. Thank you so much for listening. Please don't forget to subscribe and leave a review. For more information or to contact Book Brilliance Publishing, visit bookbrilliancepublishing.com. And remember, do different. Be brilliant.